Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Welcome to the online webinar Teaching Literature in CEFR-Aligned English Language Curriculum, Session 3 Practices in ESL Classroom. Thank you all for finding the time and visiting today's webinar. I'm Annur Najiah Hussaini binti Hussain, an English teacher at SMT Indapura 1, as well as the IIUM Moderator, IIUM Master of Education student, and I will be serving as your moderator for today. Today will be the third session of our series of online webinar teaching literature in CEFR-Aligned English Language Curriculum that started since last week for Session 1, Theory and Practices, Session 2, Challenge and Solutions. The aim of this webinar is to expose the teachers to the repertoire of teaching strategies in literature lessons. On today's session, Session 3, Practices in ESL Classroom, we will be listening to the speakers discussing and sharing their knowledge and experience regarding the practices of teaching literature in the ESL classroom, both in rural and urban areas. Alright, as for today's webinar session, we have invited three notable speakers to enlighten us further regarding this issue. Now we are going to present you our speakers. First, we have Mr. Shahrol Fahmie bin Suaidi, a National Master Trainer and Guru Cemerlang. For our second speaker, we are delighted to have Mr. Shamsul Qamar bin Rosli, a CEFR Master Trainer. And also, last but certainly not the least, we have Ms. Rahmawati bin Asman, a SIC Plus Officer of PTD Rembau. Welcome to all speakers. We are so glad you could be here today to share your insights on teaching literature in CEFR-Aligned English Language Curriculum practices in ESL Classroom. Before we begin our session, we would like to welcome you to ask any questions to our speakers, and you may leave your questions in the live chat session, and we will address some questions at the end of this webinar session. Now, moving along to our session, please welcome our first speaker, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie bin Suaidi.
All right, thank you, Moderator.
A bit sharing of information about Mr. Shahrol Fahmie bin Suaidi. He is now teaching at SK Sri Aman Kota Tinggi Johor and acting as Timbalan Pengerusi Majlis Guru Cemerlang. He got his TESL degree from IPG Campus Temanggung Ibrahim Johor, and also he is a module builder for Plant English, module builder for JPN Johor, district items builder, Didik TV personality for English, national master trainer for CEFR, district technical officer for English, and but last but not least, third chief of poetry judges. Now, we welcome Mr. Shahrol Fahmie to share his insights on experience in teaching literature at school and non-traditional or technology method and experience in teaching literature and what are the students' responses. Now, we would like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie bin Suaidi. Please welcome.
Thank you, Annur. Teaching literature in Malaysian classroom is crucial to be part of the content in English classrooms. The pupil should be fond of the learning process of literature from the beginning till the end. As a teacher, integrating the literature into the primary skills of the lesson should be incorporated. Some schools have set a specific day for primary skills and literature or language arts. I have assimilated the primary skill in the 4th week lesson so that the pupils can appreciate what they have learned in the classroom. They can say anything they want as there is no specific answer. The inculcation of skills should coincide so that the pupils will be more assertive in learning English. Literature is sometimes known as a dry subject, and as teachers, we needed to get away with clerical work and many other programs. That is the reality. That is why literature is a form of art and it should be the primary skill and they can explore by themselves. In addition, I have used the modules mainly from BPK, Bagian Pembangunan Curriculum, to carry out a few projects under plan as pupils need to maximize their ability to convey messages in English. We should be more creative in exploring their talents. Sometimes we only need we don't need expensive materials for them to produce if the objective of the lessons have been achieved. Besides that, we should also be more attentive to our kids, as sometimes the pupils have the idea but need a precise way to convey it to us. It can also be a form of literature because it does not apply in creative ways, projects, or fancy arts. It can be a form of communication or other ways that suit them. Accuracy could only be developed after fluency. We should scaffold them to master both, but it will take time. We may build fluency over accuracy to trigger their mind to learn English. Other than that, project based learning could also be executed to boost their confidence level after they have done their art. It could be from simple materials like clay, paper, or drawing. This is a stage where you could know more about an individual as your pupils will have more talents than you expected. It could also build their confidence to socialize and mingle with others in English. We could implement the teaching after presenting their projects or using the correct vocabulary terms while presenting. In correlation to that, as educators, we should also teach them that literature is not a single skill in literature. They can learn many skills in literature as they are interrelated. They can learn how to speak while presenting, socialize while discussing with their friends, and enrich their vocabulary by explaining facts. This is where the theory of Maslow could also take place. When all levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs are met, students show their entire ability and eagerness for learning. The higher a student is in the hierarchy, the better the motivation. Therefore, the students will experience more effective learning. They will also strive for more success. The pupils feel they enjoy the lessons, albeit simple yet meaningful. It is actually the objectives that matters. We can see a lot of creative thinking that we have yet to explore. That is that is all for question 1. Okay. Next question is the use of technology. The use of technology in teaching is an ordinary practice. It is because we are towards the era of leveraging technology to its maximum potential. Everyone should be able to teach or learn online, as we managed to pass through online learning during the pandemic a few years back. The struggle of online education is resilient, but we made it through. In this situation, we must be ready for everything as we should expect the unexpected. As for myself, I have challenged myself to get Google Certified Educator for Level 1 as we can never expect our capability during the pandemic. A teacher should explore and we also share. I am more than grateful as Malaysian teachers are extraordinary in exploring new knowledge in ICT and sharing it with us. The demand for ICT in learning is significant as it could cater to all subjects. In my class, I have used Peer Deck to teach grammar interactively, as pupils could answer the questions given right away. The pupils must look at the pictures and choose the best answers by clicking on the available buttons. Our Delima ID could access the application and we could assign homework to our kids. It is an interactive learning yet meaningful, especially in delivering grammar skills. The pupils could assess themselves as the score will appear at the end of the quiz. We can execute the content of delivery using the shown. Moreover, the learning process would be lively as the pupils may interact using the application. At the same time, I've been using English Blogspot for my kids to access numerous resources and vast materials for learning English. It is because they can access it anytime by clicking on the links given. Every class will have specific content so they can do their homework effectively. It has assisted me a lot during the pandemic, and using the Telegram channel has widened my knowledge of using ICT in learning. The Blogspot would also offer tons of worksheets and access to information journeys. They can also have the links to the quizzes for simple games and Padlet for a brainstorming session. In this case, both applications are worthwhile for me to deliver the contents of the lessons and attract their interest to learn, especially in English. Nowadays, they are more attracted to technology rather than talk and chalk. However, it does not mean that the traditional method is ineffective, as every practice should comply to each another. We are the chief of our classroom and we can decide for the best. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Speaker One, for sharing your experience. It has definitely given us the insights on how to apply technology in literature teaching to ensure an effective learning environment. And I was so interested in finding more about the Paradigm because that was my first time to hear about Paradigm. Maybe we can all Google and study more about Paradigm because I think it is so much better for us teachers to have to give the exercise or questions to the students, and we can also check their progress and achievement at the same time. Thank you, Speaker One, for your sharing. Now we are going to move on to our second speaker, Mr. Shamsul Kamar. Now we would like to invite our speaker two, Mr. Shamsul Kamar bin Rosli. A bit sharing of information about Mr. Shamsul Kamar. He is now teaching at SK Jelapang Perak. He got his bachelor's degree in industrial chemistry in UITM Skudai in 2000 UTM Skudai in 2007. Later, he completed his KPLI in Science Kolarenda from IPG campus Tuanku Bainun. He has been with CEFR from year 1 until year 6 and was a JU Negeri or Jurulatih Utama Negeri for KASR before that. Now, we would like to welcome Mr. Shamsul Komar to share his insights on experience in teaching literature at school and traditional method used in literature teaching and what are the students' responses. Now, the floor is yours, Mr. Shamsul Komar.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm from SK Jelapang. As you know, my name is Shamsul Kamar, which is a weird name to use these few days. And I'm going to start my session with a saying from a novelist named Ian McGowan. McEwan. And his quote is, "Not being boring is quite a challenge." And teachers, when we are teaching, it doesn't matter when we are teaching the language itself, right? Whether we are teaching the skills of speaking, listening, reading, writing, or even now language arts, where we have our literature component or literature in action for secondary school. The one who decides your class to be boring or not is going to be you. It's going to be us teachers. Because back then, when we teach our kids, we normally teach them on how to answer questions. If the question is asking you this, how should you answer that? Or if the instruction is like this, how do you write your essay? But now, when we focus more on PBD, we focus more on classroom, we give our feedbacks in the classroom. So we focus more on teaching our pupils and our kids on how to use the language itself. So it is our choice actually to teach using various methods, because we have to know that the kids are not the same, not even just in different classroom or different schools, even in your own classroom. If you have 30 kids, most of them has different preference in learning, in actually taking in the language, because some will actually learn from interpersonal by speaking to others, some intrapersonal by having monologues to themselves. Even we have musical, we have linguistic, verbal linguistic, where they use the language verbally. We have someone that is learning by visual, spatial, by seeing the thing itself. Someone that's learning by bodily kinesthetic, where they have to move to actually learn and remember. And some who learn logically, but this normally will go to mathematics, science, or something that has facts. But we have to know that not everyone is the same. So when we focus on one method in teaching, we might not cater everyone's need. We can't actually fulfill everyone's need in one single lesson. But we as teachers, we have to vary our lessons. And sometimes we don't have the option to actually use the technologies that is given to us. Sometimes when we go somewhere, we don't have internet connection. Sometimes our kids don't even have the ability to actually own a smartphone. So for me today, we will focus more on how to teach language arts or even other parts of the language traditionally. But as I said before, we are not trying to make it boring, because one of my pet peeves in my classroom is when I see some people yawn, when I see someone sleeping. It's a pet peeve. It seems like I failed actually to attract their attention. So teachers, we have to come up with something. So I'm sharing something that I've used in my classroom. And of course, I know that most of you guys have lots and lots of ideas. You may share it in the chat so that everyone can learn. We can not actually do it. I like to use the word steal. We can actually adopt and adapt whatever you have learned today or afterwards. Okay, and can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so in teaching language arts, in teaching literature component, some did not realize that in our scheme of work, other than the main skill that you are teaching, you always have your complementary skill, whether it's listening, speaking, reading, or writing. So whatever we do, whatever we plan in our classroom, the activities that we do, we have to abide to this. Whether you are doing literature and listening, so how do they listen? How do you actually assess them by their activities of listening to you or their friends? Or the activity of speaking, where they use the word and speak verbally. Or reading, where they read, find information. Or even writing. And as Mr. Shahrol said before, because language arts can be dry. Normally people will see it, even teachers will see it as a dry skill to teach the kids. We can make it fun. It's our choice to make it fun. And because today I'm going to do, okay, next slide, please. I'm going to do the traditional method. So I'm going to forego the slide. So you guys are going to see my face. And we are going to discuss on how we are going to use various methods to actually attract our pupils and let them learn literature or any other parts of the language. You can see my face already. Parts of the language by just using something that is not non-traditional. We try not to say we try to avoid, we try to find a plan B. If you can't use your technology, what else can you use? It doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be meaningful. Whatever you plan to use in your classroom has to be meaningful, and you always have to go back to your objective, go back to the learning standards, what you are trying to achieve that day, then you come up with your activity. Okay, let's go one by one, because in teaching traditionally, the methods normally will cater to 6 parts. And the first one, I have my notes here, by the way, referring to my notes. The first one is the simplest kind of activity that you can do in your classroom that can be dry, is where you have information-based methods, where your pupils will find information from the poems that they read, or the short story, or the graphic novels. So what we can do as teachers, normally we do WH questions. We ask questions verbally, and we pick our pupils to answer, or we can ask them in writing, because the skill of that day is writing. So you decided to do WH questions. And teachers, we can make this interesting. So what we can do is, in my experience in my classroom, because if we use WH questions, for the first few questions, it will be okay, but then later it will become dry and boring. So what we can do is we can use the kids. Remember, in your classroom, you have multiple abilities. You have the kids who can be mini teachers, who can be, whom I call Little Shakespeare for English. So they have their talent. Why not let them ask the questions to their friends? Or why not, if they have to write it in a meaningful way but fun? Because sometimes in my classroom, because I'm teaching, now in SK Jelapang, I'm teaching level 1. So we still have to actually, because we have our non-textbook based learning, so we can use poems, we can use other materials that has something to do with our topic. So what we teachers can do is find meaningful but fun activities that they can do in order to answer WH questions. One of the activity that I use in my classroom is they can play snake and ladders, and in each box there are questions. So when they are, what do you call it, the model, okay, when it falls in a certain box, they have to actually read the question and answer the question. That is verbally, or even read the question and answer it on their paper if it's a writing activity, so that they have something fun to do. Although we're talking about traditional method, traditional doesn't always have to be boring, chalk and talk, or just writing. You have something much more you can do. How to trigger their, what do you call it, interest. So I tried doing group activities. I tried doing it in pairs, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So when it doesn't work, don't put it hard on yourself. You might try it again, or you might try it differently. Yeah, that is traditional method on information-based activity. So one more thing that you can always do for information-based activities are giving lectures. You tell them what is this poem about, and you read it to them. Can be dry, yes, but sometimes you have to. If you have to and you want to use it, then yes, teachers, it's up to you, but vary your methods. This might be one of your lessons. Okay, and then secondly, what we can do, what I don't condone, is using paraphrastic activities, where you paraphrase. The one that I don't condone much is when you translate everything to language 1, our main mother tongue, Bahasa Melayu. Sometimes you have to, when you can't actually get them to understand a certain word. Because when you use, later, when we come to language-based activities, you sometimes have to tell them the meaning of the words. They have to find words that they don't know the meaning of. So what we normally do sometimes when we actually ran out of ideas, we just translate it to L1, Bahasa Melayu, which if you have to, then yes, but if you can use some other methods, maybe show pictures, maybe use gestures, because we are talking traditionally. Use gestures, or ask their friends to actually explain it to them, because sometimes our language is higher than the language of the kids, so we can ask the friends who is more capable to actually explain to the kids. And what else we can do for paraphrasing activity is we can actually ask the pupils to retell the story using their own words. That is much better when they are paraphrasing it using their own word, but still in English. But teachers, if they did use other languages, don't straight away cut them. In the classroom, in my experience, when we cut them and we correct them there and then, sometimes they will feel down. It's like, oh, I make mistakes, I don't want to continue. So it's okay for them to actually use the language not correctly, but after that, we can correct them. Sometimes some students will be okay if you correct them there and then, but some will feel like, feel, not to say, but yeah, offended. So what we can do in those kind of students, you wait until they finish and then you correct them. Make sure whatever mistakes that the students do, the pupils do, we as teachers, we correct them in our own way, because they have to know, and their friends also have to know that the language that they use sometimes incorrectly, or even if they use L1, or if they use their mother tongue. So we can correct them afterwards, okay, when they are paraphrasing especially. Okay, and then we go to a different method that we can use, and I sometimes use in my classroom, is where you ask for personal response. We don't go to a group activity yet. We go to personal response where you ask your pupils, okay, Ali, how do you feel about this situation? They might give you an answer with their facial expression. They might give you an answer with one word. They might give you an answer with the whole sentence. This is where we can see where our pupils are. It doesn't have to be on paper. You can see it like that. So if they can answer, even if they can answer with their face, they don't like it. They like it. It is a feedback, a traditional method feedback. So we teachers, we can accept, okay, thank you for your feedback, and others add to that. If we don't tell them, that is not nice, that is not what I wanted. If we don't want to put our pupils down. Okay, and then, but sometimes you don't agree with, we as teachers, we don't agree with your opinion. When something bad happened in the story or in the poem, they do agree with that. We ask them further question, we probe them. Why? Why do you think it is good? Okay, this is where we go towards personal responses. We ask them personally what they think. It doesn't have to be about the whole story. You can just go to the part of maybe a stanza of a poem, maybe a paragraph of your short story, or maybe one single box of the cartoon. Not cartoon, sorry, a wrong word. Graphic novel. Yes, so we as teachers, we have various types of, various part of the lesson to actually elicit personal responses from our kids. Okay, and then we go to what we normally do in our classroom, and what I like you guys to actually do more, where we go to the moral or philosophical activities, where you can ask them, what do you learn from this story? What are the moral values? Although some answers can be cliche, but at least they have to read or actually listen to the story and then give the feedback. Okay, what we can do in this kind of activity is, because if you keep on asking the question and your pupils answering the question, the class can be dry. Okay, so we can do this kind of activity in a group, where they discuss it in a group. Because in teaching, we have think, pair, share. They can do it on their own, and then they can discuss it with their shoulder partner, and then afterwards they can share it in the whole classroom or the whole group. So they will feel confident in actually using their own words in telling what they have learned from the story. Okay, that is the moral and philosophical part of the activity. Okay, and these last two is one of my favorite method that we can use in the classroom, and I believe you teachers, most of us already use this. And the most common one is the language-based activity, where you can do it in, again, individual, in pairs, or in a large group. What you can do in a group work, you can have them to do puzzle. You can have them doing mind maps, I think maps, anything. But the thing is, the problem in doing group works, sometimes we have nominal party in the group. They only be there as a name, as part of the group, and not doing anything, because they feel like, oh, if I do something, it might be wrong. We don't see it negatively, because some pupils are not that confident. So what we can do to boost their confidence, teachers in the classroom, is, as teachers in the classroom, we can give each and every party member a job. One is the secretary, the one who writes things. One is the material collector, the one who collects all the materials from the teacher. We have one presenter, one usher, who can actually look at other groups and see what they have done. So we can actually adopt and adapt whatever they have done. Okay, so when you have that, a particular things that they have to do in their group, they have, what do you call that? Responsibility. What is their part in the group? That is one of my idea, because sometimes when you do group work, you'll see that you'll always see the same face. They are always be the one who is writing. They are always be the one who is actually presenting. So what we can do is we give them jobs, or you can alternate. Okay, so he's done the first part. Can you please do the second part or something? And it's okay. This is controversial a little bit to say, but in language classroom, it's okay to be noisy if it's actually in control. It is very okay to be noisy, because sometimes people do ask, hey, why is your class very noisy? Because we are trying to use the language. If you don't allow your pupils to actually speak when they have a speaking classroom, where they have a speaking lesson, you don't actually allow them to use the language. So it's okay to be noisy, but make sure it is in control. If it's noisy, the noise is about what? Okay, and this is the favorite of everyone, I think, for language arts. It is a stylistic activities where you can finally, when they have the language-based activities where they can do performance, they can do it in style. They can do it with their own creativity. It doesn't mean that in other parts of that we have taught before, they can't use their creativity. But in stylistic approach, you can actually allow them to be free. Let's say you are doing a performance. In language-based activities, normally they are doing the performance based on the text itself. But in stylistic, I've done it in my previous school where we did this is not part of the text that is given to us, but I did Goldilocks, and in their performance, they have to come up with their own ending of the story, because I only gave a part of the story until the bear came home. And what happens next is up to the pupils, and they have their own performance. So when you do that, actually, you can get a lot of ideas. They have lots and lots of ideas, teachers. We can actually learn from them. It's not just teachers, because we in the classroom, we focus more on our pupils, because we are trying to be pupil-centered. So teachers, as a facilitator in your classroom, we sometimes can learn from our kids. And I do learn a lot from my kids, actually. They have lots and lots of ideas that I don't even think of. Maybe because of my age, because next year I'm going to be in 4 series. So I have gray hairs, they don't. So they have ideas that is not coming to me. So why not we learn from them, and we do stylistic approach where they can explain about the character and the characteristic. This is simple. You can use bubble map from I think. You can use double bubble map in I think to actually let them compare between two characters. What are the similarities and what are the differences? Okay. Use your flip chart paper, or as we like to call it in Malay, in our country, in Malaysia, mahjong paper. Use it because we are going towards traditional. Sometimes we don't have the ability to have the projectors in the classroom, or your battery ran out that day suddenly. So you can come up with plan B, which is using the materials that is in your hands. So I always have flip chart papers. I always have some manila cards. You can use that. They can work in groups. And sometimes when we talk about literature, we always talk about the character. We always talk about the moral values. We rarely talk about the setting. So why not, in the stylistic approach, you ask your pupils to actually tell you which part of the story is telling us about the setting. So where do you think this is? If you write your own story, where your settings will be. Okay, remember, teachers, whatever activity you do, you have to actually, again, refer to your learning standard what your complimentary. I'm looking at my watch. I already have 22 minutes. Yes, I know. We always have to refer back to our learning standards. What is your main objective? What is your main skill, and what is your complementary skill? And you use that to your advantage. And make sure by the end of the lesson, by the end of your activities that you've done with your kids, your objective is achieved. Especially your main objective is supposed to be in your while you have pre, while, post, and your complementary can be in while, can be in post. It's up to you. But teachers, make sure you make your pupils achieve their objective by the end of the lesson, because whatever we do in our classroom, we always have to go back to our learning standard and our learning objective for that particular lesson. And I think I talked too much already for this session. I would give the floor back to our lovely moderator. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much, Speaker 2, for sharing your experience. It's absolutely refreshing to know more about various methods in order to fit the different preference by our students. As the saying goes, not being boring is quite challenging. So I think all the teachers know now how to adopt and adapt the various methods in order to trigger the students' interest as well as to achieve the learning objective of our lessons in the classroom. Now, finally, the awaiting moment for last speaker, Ms. Rahmawati bin Othman, SIC Plus Officer of PPD Rembau. A little bit information about our third speaker, Ms. Rahmawati Othman. She got her Bachelor in Language and English Language Literature from UKM. Later, she obtained Master of Education in TESL from IIUM Shah Alam. She specialized in writing, communication, and coaching. She had 22 years of experience teaching in schools and has been a SIC officer, SIC Plus officer for 8 years. Now, we welcome Ms. Rahmawati bin Othman to share her experience in organizing literature activities and what schools can do to assist teachers in literature teaching at rural schools. Now, we would like to welcome Ms. Rahmawati Othman.
Okay, thank you very much, Annur, our lovely moderator, as Shamsul said it. Okay, thank you very much for being here, everyone. All right, so before we move on to into this, deeper into this, I just want to mention something, why literature? Okay, we have to know why literature is in our education system. All right, because for some of us it's a nuisance. Okay, some students, they don't even read, they can't even read, and then we want to teach them literature. So it's a problem for certain schools, right? But actually, what literature does to us, to the pupils, is quite subtle, but it will result in something which is very big. It let the student learn empathy, and then it gives some emotional intelligence to the students. Okay, that's what it do, and they can actually be more tolerant in life, the social skill that they need to have. Okay, and then when it comes to literature, how should it be taught in school? We need to know that literature should be done very subtly, and then it should be considered as something which is a relaxing escape. We don't want literature to become something so strict as our academic environment is now. Okay, even though we are no more exam oriented, but still we have our ongoing assessment, and then sometimes it gives some stress to the teachers as well as the students. Okay, so when there is a literature, it gives balance to whatever it is that we are having in the classroom actually. Okay, that is what literature does to us in a way. All right, and then why literature? Because it gives experience to the students, and it is more meaningful when we teach literature in a way that the students don't really know that they are teaching, they are learning literature unknowingly. Okay, it is very good if we can do that, if we teachers can do that. It glides through the learning process in the classroom. And then um, it can actually provide stability for the students emotionally. And then it can also develop some reading habit. This is what we want actually in this era of digital and technologies. Okay, students very seldom they pick up a book and read. They don't do that anymore. So when it comes to literature, they are in a way uh, they are being forced to read. Okay, so that is what literature does. Okay, to everyone, to the students and to us as well actually. All right, so so now I'm moving on to the literature related program in PPD. Okay, now when it comes to literature-related program, we in PPD, there is a certain sector which is involved in this. Okay, what I can say in general is that we used to have, we still have English Carnival, right? Either it's face-to-face or it's online, okay? And in the English Carnival, there's always a storytelling, always poem recitation, creative writing, okay? But one question is, the pupils' involvement. How many of them are involved in this, in storytelling, in poem recitation, in creative writing? How many of them? Very few, because it is competition oriented. We always want our students to, we pick up the best one, pick up the best one. Okay, this you can go so that she can get the certs and whatnot. All right, and give good names to the school. That's it. All right, I'm not saying that everyone is, the intention is like that, but mostly that is our intention. We want them to gain something, to get the cert, and then to make the school proud of them. Okay, but what is the impact from the storytelling that they did, from the poem recitation, from the creative writing? What's the impact? How well do they learn literature actually? Okay, it's because when it comes to the district program, and then there's a school program, and that is a classroom program. So which one do you think is much more impactful? If you ask me, it's the classroom. What you did in the classroom is the best thing that actually can nurture this emotional balance, stability, gaining experience for the students. Okay, it's not those that it has been is being done at the district level or the state level. Not that I'm against it, I'm talking about the impact of it. All right, so that it's better that way in the classroom. We have to focus everything in the classroom so that they get what they are supposed to be getting when it comes to literature. All right, so and also I would like to mention here, because this thing, okay, all these district program, when it comes to literature related program, most of this, I don't know if you agree with me, there is a teacher behind them. When it's a storytelling, okay, the teacher will pick the story, you memorize. Okay, this is the poem. You memorize the poem. And you ask the student, what's the poem? What's the meaning of the poem? They don't even know. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you have to give it in the classroom first. You have to teach them in the classroom first. Appreciate literature. Then only they can go far. It can go without you forcing the students actually. Okay, you will nurture their reading habit. You will nurture their inquisitive mind. Okay, when you have you fully teach them in the classroom what literature is all about. Okay, all right. So going from there, I would like to add something more to what Mr. Shamsul said just now about the approaches. Okay, I'm more interested in these two approaches that usually our teachers are using in the classroom. Okay, which is the paraphrastic approach. Okay, paraphrastic meaning you paraphrase words by words, sometimes in poem, for example. Okay, it's not wrong, but sometimes teachers have the tendency to do it unnecessarily. For example, my car is red, kereta saya merah. Straight away, come on. Car students know. Red, the color. Since preschool, they know that color. So you don't have to translate it unnecessarily. Okay. We know teachers know a lot. Okay. All right. It's like that. That is what we meant. Okay. It is an approach, but then don't do it unnecessarily unless it is really, really important for them to understand. So you tell. Okay. And then another one is the information-based approach where teachers, this is very teacher-centered because teacher, you know everything and you would love to tell the students, okay, actually the father is like this. That's why the son behave a certain way. You know, things like that. Why? Why don't you let the student, this is their time to learn. You have been uh, learning for how many years? Since 7 years old. And then you go to primary school and then secondary school and then your diploma, your master's. No, for 30 over years you've been learning, and now please let the students do it. Okay, not you. Try as far as possible. Let them. We know you know so much. Okay, just let the student this time. All right, and then I would suggest that you go for personal response approach, as what Mr. Samsul said. Okay, when it comes to personal response, you can get more. And then maybe some of you will be asking, come on lah Puan Ramawati, the students can't even read sometimes. How am I going to ask them to read, to give personal response? And I would say again, come on teachers, we are actors. So what do? We act out. All right. When you say, okay, the house is big, do it like that. Okay, don't be shy. It's your classroom. Like Shahrol said, okay, the classroom. We are the master of our classroom, so we can do everything we want. Okay, so you act it out. No problem. You can run, you can dance like Anita Sarawak. No problem. All right. Okay, that's how you do. That's what teachers are. Okay, we can do it. All right. Okay. Just don't think about all these stressful what PPD asks from you and whatnot. Just focus on the classroom. What you can give the PPD. Don't think about what PPD wants from you. Okay, what you can prove to them that you can do in the classroom to make your students better. All right. Okay. Next one. Okay, so literature lessons in the classroom. Okay, the next. All right. Okay, so these are some of my suggestions, okay, for primary. When it comes to promoting literature in the classroom so that the students would love to be, involving themselves in literature, we have to have a lot of reading materials in the classroom. We can't say no to this, all right? Because how are we going to eat, to devour certain food if the food is not there? All right, think about it that way. All right, so we want them to read books, so we have to provide books around them or any reading materials. When you go to hotels, teachers love, nowadays teachers are very wealthy. They can go to, they go to overseas very often. And then when you go to hotels, you have the areas where, take one, please take one, please take one. Pity the hotels who didn't take all the flyers and brochures. Okay, take it, bring it back so that you can do something with that. Maybe you can have a mini library in the classroom. So it's fine. Okay, you have to have bookshelves or shelves in the classrooms. And then when it comes to primary students, the activities should be hands-on. They have to move around. Like Samsul said just now, boring is something, what? Okay, boring is difficult to handle or something. I can't remember the quote. But to make it not boring, you have to make it hands-on because you have to understand, the psychology that we learn in college, we learn in the university, psychology of the students, okay? The attention span that they have. Okay, so we have to keep them in mind. It's not only for our exam purposes in university or colleges. It's for us to use in the classroom. So make sure that everything is hands-on. Move around. Let them move around. Okay, and poetry in motion, you have to ask them to actually recite it and maybe draw something out of the poems that they can understand. All right, and you can silhouette match maybe for the, they have a silhouette and then the character in a short story, for example. So then match. Okay, which is Mr. Grago, for example. Okay, do you think this one or that one, you can do that in the classroom. Okay, something that they can pick and match and do things like that. All right. For secondary students, okay, surround them with reading materials again. Okay, when I was in school, I used to bring all my Reader's Digest there, and then my students used to particularly like the My Story section, which is only 1.5 page in Reader's Digest, and it's very interesting. It's about daily, daily happenings in people's life. Okay, so they read about that, and then when you read stories, you cut it short. What happens next? Okay, this is where your personal response approach come in. Okay, you ask them. Okay, what do you think happens next? Why do you think it's that? Okay, and then we can have a postcards or greeting cards. Use the lines in the poem. Okay, as if they are sending cards to someone. Okay, but they use the lines and poems of their choice. We can do that. And then this is a treasure hunt. When you ask me about treasure hunt, okay, it is about when you have the whole stanzas of a poem, you can cut them in strips, and then you put it somewhere around your classroom or somewhere outside of the classroom. I used to do this, all right? So this is one way to promote reading. They will have to read because they will have to find the directions where to go, and then they have to actually pick the stanza and match whether or not, okay, this is the first stanza or the second stanza until they are a complete one poem. So that is a treasure hunt. They went around, okay, and definitely it's going to be very noisy, like my friend said just now, but it's academic noise, no problem. Okay, the school will have no problem with that. Okay, if you do this, other teachers will be jealous of you. I'm sure of that. Okay, and then they were thinking, this school is not, this class is not doing anything. What is Paramawati doing? Doing nothing, not teaching. Teaching is very subjective. Okay, there is no certain one way of teaching. It's very subjective. It's up to you as long as they got what they are supposed to be getting. Okay, they learn something. And then you also can have literature circle where you have a reading materials of their choice, and then they have the I can talk more about this literature circle, but then in the gist of it is like you give them the task. Okay, what is this person need to do based on that reading material? So when they have this circle, they'll be telling, okay, I will talk about this character. This character is this, and then you let the others know. Okay, oh, I'm talking about the setting. Okay, the setting of the story I think is not so good, this and that. Okay, that is how you promote literature in the classroom. Okay, but the most important thing is you have to know more than the students. You have to exceed the students' knowledge. Then only you can teach literature. Literature is not something that is outlined clear. It's not a cookie cutter kind of thing. All right, you can go anywhere, and the parameter is very wide when it comes to literature. So it's up to you. How are you going to bring it back to your classroom? And then so that you can have all this emotional intelligence, and you can get the students some personal experience. You can promote diversity in the classroom. So it's up to you, teachers. All right. So I think up to here, I will bid you goodbye until later for the question and answer session. All right. This is all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rahmawati, for sharing your view in literature lessons. It's good to know that there are various ways in engaging the students and also the teachers to teach literature at school. And I was attracted to the suggestion by Ms. Rahmawati just now about letting the students to learn literature in the classroom unknowingly, so that they have the interest to learn more and read more, and also to nurture the students' reading habits in the literature classroom. Thank you so much, Ms. Rahmawati. So very well, everyone. We have listened to all the three speakers, and now we would like to share a few questions that have been posted by our twin audience today. So we would like speaker one, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie, to answer the first question. And the first question is, how do you assess the learning if we use all these teaching techniques?
All right, Annur,
So,
thank you.
yeah, please
Okay.
welcome.
All right, actually, all the teaching techniques mentioned are not using at a time in classroom. It is just the techniques that we can vary in order to make learning as fun and meaningful. The assessment could be executed holistically and, of course, using ongoing SBE, school-based assessment, to assess our kids from time to time. It is to assist us to incorporate skills in literature to teach English. As for now, we are still stick to the holistic assessment and following the guidelines given by KPM. As I believe we are now having UASA, Ujian Akhir Sesi Academic, as part of the assessment in our education system. So the techniques listed are just the techniques. Then we need to choose the best that suit for our kids. I think that's all for question 1.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie. And that was the question from Ms. Nur Hazlin binti Muhammad Nazar. Thank you so much for the question. Now, for the second question for Mr. Shahrol Fahmie, we would like to know if you could share the app for teaching grammar interactively. And this question was posted by Ms. Weta Anu.
All right, thank you, Anu. I have been using Peer Deck as it is really interactive. You can just Google Peer Deck, P-E-A-R-D-E-C-K, Peer Deck. You can use your Delima ID for you to log in, and then you can make the notes using the slides given. After that, there will be 2 modes of teaching as a teacher and also a student. Actually, this is one of the apps that I used when I was been observing by the Nazi. And then the students could answer the grammar lessons by clicking to the slides after they have learned few skills, especially grammar. Then they can also get their score right after they have finished answering. And then before the lesson, you could also use Padlet in order for you to get their prior knowledge based on the selected skills. For example, you can just ask them, what do you know about article? What do you know about present continuous tense? And then they just write out anything using Padlet. After that, you can just use Peer Deck in order for you to assess their grammar knowledge interactively. That's all for second question.
All right, okay. Very well answered by our speaker one, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie. Now we are moving on to the third question that is for Mr. Shamsul Kamar, our second speaker. So the question is from Ms. Aina Zuriana. What kind of literature content is suitable for level 1 students? Now we would like to welcome Mr. Shamsul Kamar to answer this question.
Okay, sorry, I was disconnected just now. As the irony is, I was talking about using technology and Plan B. Luckily, I get reconnected again. Okay, when we talk about non-textbook based lesson where you can have your own literature component, teachers, don't be too ambitious. That's the first thing I have to actually tell you guys. Don't be too ambitious. I have one that I used back then when I was teaching year 1. And I can't remember year 1 or year 2 with the topic My Pet. I think it's year 1. Yeah. And it is simple. Just the Fat Cat, the poem. So when you use that in your classroom, because kids are, for them, poem in other languages are quite alien. So what you can do as teachers are, you have to do it first. You have to actually recite it first. Okay. As an example, I'll recite this, the simplest one. I had a cat who was so fat, he could not even sit on his mat. He had a hat that he did not fit. He put it on and then it split. Okay. The way you read it to your kids will actually convey their, not convey, actually grab their attention. Whether you read it as a kid, remember, Paramah just said just now, and even Shahrol said, the class is yours. Make it a performance. Yes? Wear wigs, wear whatever outfit you want. You don't have to make it expensive. I just wore a mask before this, and it still works because they see you differently. So you use the simplest form of poem or short story. As I told you just now, I used Goldilocks before in level 1. At least they know. Even they don't know the story of Goldilocks, they will know the words in it. The 3 bears, the mama bear, the papa bear, and the little boy bear. At least they know about it. So don't constrain yourself to just what they already know. Get them to learn something different, but make it easier. Remember, teachers, we adopt whatever we can from the internet, but we adapt it to our classroom. If you find it too difficult, simplify it. If you find it too long, shorten it. If you find something too boring, make it fun. The class is yours. Be a diva in your classroom. Okay, that is the first question. Later, I'll answer the next question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shamsul Komar. So let's be diva, everyone, in your own class. All right. Okay, so for the next question, how do you attract the pupils to read poems? I found out after the pandemic, this habit of reading is fading. So this question was posted by Ms. Haliza binti Muhammad Ali, and I would like to welcome Mr. Shamsul Kamar again to answer this question.
Okay, again, teachers. The choice of being boring is yours. The choice of not being boring is also yours. So when you choose your materials, when you choose the methods that you use to actually present the materials, you are actually choosing how to attract your pupils in your classroom. Doesn't matter if it's primary, level 1, level 2, secondary, form 1, form 2, until form 5. You have the authority, not to say authority, you have the power to actually make your class interesting. Because yes, reading is quite alien now because they have this. Yeah. But why not use this? Although my point today is using traditional method, why not use this? Because in my classroom, even year 1, I managed to ask them to actually record their poem reading and send it to me when we had our PDPR. No matter how wrong they read, how wrong the recitation is, they still they were still trying their best to actually read. And you choose something that you know that they can pronounce, you know that they can say, and you know that they've learned the words, so that it will not put down their confidence. And I know this has been told in the previous slot. I think it's the first session. But I'm going back to Nilam because I am one of the judge for Nilam for Negeri Perak. And I find that most of schools, most of teachers, not to say pupils or kids or students, even the teachers, when we ask about Nilam, what they know about Nilam is just reading. But Nilam is so broad. Whatever you have read is not just about giving a synopsis of the book. When you join Nilam, you'll know that Nilam is about telling us how you feel about what the reading materials that you've read. What are the characters? Who is your favorite character? What do you think about the story? If you can change, what would you change about it? It's not just about summarizing the story. So let your pupils go through Nilam. Let them actually write in the book for once. And don't just constrain them in whatever is given in the library. They can get whatever they want at home. They can borrow their friend's book. Because now, we normally, if we talk about ourselves, we know Enid Blyton. We know, of course, at my age, we know William Shakespeare. We know big writers. But sometimes we have to go to their level. Because me as a teacher as well, I have to watch cartoons. I'm so sorry to say that. And I watch Roboca Poly, I watch Sophia the First to be at their level. So we have to know what they like and we have to go to that. So if you find your materials, again, first question and second question is quite actually the same. Not to say the same, but has connection. We have to go to their level. We have to walk a mile in their shoe and get to learn the language in their level. We don't use something that we think is appropriate. We use something that we know is appropriate for the kids and we know that is suitable to use and using the same topic in your lesson. And there's one question I think I saw just now saying something about how do you know that the setting or the something that is happening in the story is bad and how do you explain it? Again, teachers, we have to actually go towards a part that is not, let's say you don't agree with something or you see that something is not appropriate for them in the text. So you explain why. Or let them explain why. Why do you think? Because sometimes it's not just coming from you. You can ask them, this is, okay, you said that this is not appropriate. Can you please tell me why? Because the class is about the people's learning. It's not about us saying everything. We don't spoon feed them. We don't condone chalk and talk. We ask for their own experience and their own opinion on whatever you use in your classroom. I hope it answers your question, teachers. But if you don't, you have my ID there. You can always message me on what do you call this? YouTube. Or later I can give you my IG if you want. My follower is just 400. Okay, we can actually use that. We can keep in touch and discuss this together. I'm also learning today, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shamsul Komar. Okay, I think we can let the viewers know your ID or your Instagram handle name better so that they can contact you after this. All right. Right now we have approximately 1,300 viewers on YouTube platform, and we have received quite a massive numbers of comments and questions. And now for our third speaker, Ms. Rahmawati, definitely we have more questions for you. So let's start with the first question. How to teach students in an interactive way when there are no facilities in school? So this question was posted by Ms. Sumati Chandra. Now I would like to welcome our third speaker, Ms. Rahmawati, to answer this question. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Annur. Okay, thank you very much to Ms. Sumati. All right, when it comes to lack of facility, I can't really be sure what kind of facility that you meant. But I assume it's about the ICT, okay, the computers or whatnot. Okay, all right. So now we have to understand what it means by interactive. Interactive is a two-way flow of communicating. All right. So when it comes to a two-way flow of communicating, traditional method is fine. Okay, you can just use the personal response approach, no problem. All right. That's where it comes in handy. All right. Maybe the last time just now I mentioned something about literature circle. You can do that with the students, no problem. All right. So that's my answer for question 1. Okay.
Thank you. So it means that we don't have it is unnecessary to use technology if we don't have the facilities, because we can adopt and adapt the literature method shared by our speakers just now.
Okay.
So now let's move on to the next question posted by our viewer Nur Hanan. So the question goes, is it possible or better to include literature component in Ujian Akhir Sesi Academic? So I would like to welcome Ms. Rahmawati again to answer this question.
Okay, Hanan, it is possible, yes. Okay, but when it comes to better, what are we comparing it to? Okay, all right. So the lack of literature components or the lack of literature questions now, or to ensure that the emotional intelligence of the students is better. All right, so that is the main question here. Okay, if we say it's possible, yes, it's possible. So is it better? Better if you think it is better in a sense that it can actually add up to the students' emotional intelligence. Yes, it is better if we have literature questions in UASA. All right, that's the area that I can actually answer your question. Okay, Hanane? All right.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so the last question was posted by Miss Estili. What would you suggest to students who refuse to speak English in English during lessons in the classroom?
Okay, now I have three questions. Very fair now. All right, good. Now it's okay. It's okay. I was just joking. Knowing me, I'm like that. All right. So, when it comes to students who refuse to speak in the classroom, all right, we have to go back to psychometric. Okay, differentiation in the classroom. Okay, we have like 30, 40, maybe some school we have five, but even within that five students, we have different kind of, different style of learning and whatnot. So if we have this kind of students, okay, we go back to his or her psychometric, and then we see, or we can do it by observing them in the classroom. You are the master of your classroom. You know your students well, okay? So from here, you can actually think of something which is not communication wise, communication related activities. Okay, you can ask him or her to do something which is not that, which doesn't involve talking. And as I said before, when it comes to learning, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to actually, talk to me, I talk to you, but you can produce something. The students can produce something to show their understanding. That is good enough. Okay, maybe that is one of the ways for you to actually deal with this problem, with this issue of the students. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rahmawati. And to be honest, actually, we have more questions, but we try to limit the questions due to the time constraints. All right. Okay, so we have come to the end, but before we end our webinar session, we would like to invite all the speakers to give their closing remarks about our webinar session for today. So first of all, we'd like to invite the first speaker, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie, to share his thoughts and insights about our webinar session today. Please welcome.
Thank you, Annur. To me, in conclusion, I think we are still the best spots in our classroom. This is because we know our kids very well. We know everything because we teach them from the beginning till the end. For example, if you teach them from year 1 until you are going to bring them until year 6. And then when they come to school, we should make sure that they get something. I mean, just not the English objective, but they have to learn something directly or indirectly. This is because sometimes when there is no assessment, for example, there is no UPSR in our education system, they tend not to focus. I mean, previously we have KBSR, now we have KSSR. And then previously we have KBSR for English, but now we have CEFR. Actually, they are actually the same, but then how we adapt it to the best, I mean, to the maximum level of our teaching in order for them to understand. As I said to my pupils and my kids, actually, I teach math. When we do maths, we can get the product of what we have to solve the questions. For example, x plus 3 equals by 15, something like that. And then when we talk about English, if you do not know the term, for example, triumph, 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 you don't know about triumph, but then how are you going to answer it in essay form? I mean, how are you going to give responses? So it is up to us whether we want to make it something dry or something interactive. And there are many ways in this world for us to explore, because to me, when there is a will, there is a way. Whenever you are in rural school, suburban, or even in city, if your students do not have the interest to learn and to listen to your preach, it will be just as dry as I have mentioned before. So to me, uh, it is up to them, for it is up to us for them to learn at least something meaningful, not just if we talk too much but then they get nothing. So to me, it is one of the best ways for us to actually ask ourselves, what kind of teacher are we going to be, and what kind of students are we going to produce in future. Maybe we have more years in this education system, and then we are going to design it in our own way. Sometimes we have to know that um, the reformation, I mean, the transformations of our education system is so rapid until you have to catch. So you have to know what is the best way to adapt and adopt the teaching strategies. We cannot just use chalk and talk every time we want to deliver the content, because everything is changing and it is rapidly, just for our mobile gadgets and everything. For example, iPhone, now it is going to be iPhone 15. Yeah, 15. So you have to know what is your mission and what is your vision in your life. So I hope this webinar, Teaching Literature in CEFR-Aligned English Language Curriculum, will give you something. I mean, if not too much, but still meaningful information that all of our speakers here mentioned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your time and everything. See you again.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Speaker One, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie. So before we end your part, can you please share with us your social media or any platform that the viewers or the audience can contact you after this?
Yeah, sure. I will just chat on.
Okay, you can just comment in the chat box. Okay, so teachers, okay, we need to adopt and adapt instead of only chalk and talk. Okay, as mentioned by our first speaker, Mr. Shahrol Fahmie. Thank you so much. Next, please welcome our second speaker, Mr. Shamsul Kamar, to deliver his last words and thoughts about our session for today. Please welcome.
Okay, that sounds a little bit scary when you say last words. Okay, the last words for this session. I'm just kidding, don't worry about it. Okay, I have something to say regarding, okay, I'm gonna divide my summary into towards the committee of this program, towards the speakers, towards the teachers, the viewers, and towards myself. Okay, first and foremost, for the committee, thank you very much for having us. Actually, I feel flattered to be part of this. And I hope you continue doing this, not just because this is part of your assignment, but this is a platform that people, teachers, officers can use to share. It's not just us, actually. We have lots and lots of teachers who have lots and lots of experiences in the classroom, whether it's rural, partly rural, or even in urban areas. So all of these teachers actually have multiple types of experiences. It's going to be different in each and every place. So it's cool to actually learn, to actually listen to these experiences and adapt it to whatever we have in our school as a teacher. And as officers, you can actually know what your teachers do in their own school and in their classroom, and you can actually all of us can actually learn from this. We're not here because we are better than you guys. You have to actually remember that we are here because we are sharing whatever we have, whatever we did, and whatever failed. Okay, we are all learning, no matter how high you are, no matter how low you are. If you are a new teacher, if you are a veteran teacher, if you are partly veteran like myself, who's going to be 40 next year. But yep, we are all learning. We are all getting information from others and use it in our classroom. Whether you agree to it or not, there are something that we learn every day. And towards the two speakers, thank you very much for sharing. I actually learned a lot from you guys. Being in the middle, I listened to Mr. Shahrol, stole some ideas and made it my own. And I know Puan Ramawati also stole my ideas, made it her own. That's how we do our lesson. We don't steal it as in steal. We adapt it. We repeat whatever they say because we know we don't know everything. We only know our kids. So we use experiences from others, we learn, and we actually make it our own. And to both speakers, I actually salute you guys. I hope that we can meet again. Okay, and for teachers, the viewers, doesn't matter you're a teacher or ustazah, ustaz, even parents. If you're watching this, please, please, please believe in yourself. Whatever you try to do in your classroom, it's okay to try. You want to try something different, it's okay to try something different, but make sure it is legal first and foremost. Make sure it is legal and make sure it has meaning. This will be meaningful to whatever you're trying to teach your pupils or students in your classroom, because our kids, they, not to say they depend on us, but they look up to us. Whether we like it or not, they look up to us. They are trying to be as good as we are in the language. So we have to be the example. And teachers, I do believe that you've done everything in your power to actually make your kids learn the language. And it's okay if it fails once. It's okay if it fails twice. We change. Because time is actually flying by. And we have to catch up to it. The curriculum is changing. The technology is changing. The needs are changing. Because I remember when we were in primary school, our UPSR is just matching, writing simple sentences. Now they have essays. Now they have words that we don't even learn up until secondary school. In year 1, they have camouflage. Even teachers cannot pronounce that. But yes, time is changing. So we have to change according to time. And lastly, to me, myself. Oh, that's a summary for me. Actually, what I learned today is, as a teacher, I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to do to my kids, and I owe them a lot. We are not doing, of course, a cliche. We're not doing this for money. I'm doing it for my gaji as well. But the passion needs to be there. When you are a teacher, you need to have passion. Not passion as in, okay, yes, you need patience, kesabaran, but you need to have passion. You need to be passionate in your classroom. You need to have passionate in the language itself, because if you don't do that, there's no way your kids will have the same passion as you. So you need to be passionate. You need to love the language, so your pupils will do the same. Because again, as I mentioned before, they look up to you. Yeah, I still have my timer over here. I always talk with my timer and I look at it. Okay, it's already 5 minutes. Okay, I thank you very much for listening, and I'm very sorry if I said something wrong. Please do tell me. Okay, I already gave my IG handle to the moderator because my laptop ran out of battery. Can you please put it in the comment later? Okay, please. It's not because I want more followers, but we can actually connect to each other. We can share experiences. Okay, and you may ask questions. I may not know how to answer, but I can actually get someone to get the answer for me so that we can share this. Okay, teachers, thank you very much. And to the community, again, thank you very much for inviting me. I feel honored. I feel flattered. And that's all from me. I hope we can see each other again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samsul Kamar, for the meaningful summary for our webinar session for today. So last but definitely not the least, we would like to invite our third speaker, Ms. Fahmie, to share her thoughts on our webinar session for today. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Annur. All right, I'm always last but not least. And if it makes you feel better, Samsul, I have 3 more years to my retirement. Okay, so you're not that old. Okay. All right. So to end the session, I just would like to thank the committee. Okay, and I would say is as mentioned previously by Mr. Syamsul, macam seperti di atas, okay, everything, the thank, okay, the appreciation and whatnot, okay, it's too long for me to say it here. All right, but I really appreciate the opportunity, and to everyone, thank you very much for being here with us, okay, for sharing. We are not, better in any ways from you, but we are at par, or maybe we are lower and you are higher than us in terms of knowledge and experience, okay? So I would like to say to end this that whenever we teach, we should teach by example. All right, I learned this when I was teaching last time in school, because when you teach, when you ask the students to do writing, okay, there are students who ask me, teacher, you keep on asking me to write, okay, what is it? What's your product in writing? So I showed them. Last time, I used to have a blog spot where I write stories, novels, poems. So I show them, okay, I give them the address, okay, you go and check it out. So they cannot say anything to you, okay? You teach by example. You want them to write a poem, you try and write a few first. Okay, then you show them, I can do it, so can you. It's like that, all right? So when you want them to tell stories in the classroom, be the clown that you are in the classroom, no problem, okay? So a little bit of a reminder, even though we are towards the end of our journey as a teacher, stay true to your, the passion that you have as a teacher at heart, okay? Don't throw it away, because even though I'm an SIC plus, I miss the days in the classroom every day for the last 8 years. Okay, I'm still a teacher. I always be a teacher, and with that, always understand what the teacher needs. The how busy they are in the school. I know when not to disturb the teachers in school. Okay, I hope I have no problem with my teachers in my district in that manner. All right, so okay, and my last word is I learned this from my sons, okay, that they say sometimes teachers love to kill the time in the classroom by nagging. So stop nagging, teachers. Okay, don't nag in the classroom. Just straightway go to whatever you want to teach. Don't kill the time. Don't murder the time with your nags. Okay? All right, so with that, thank you so much. Okay, I hope I'm going to see you again somewhere, sometime. And for the social media thing, I'm not an FB person. I'm not really into IG or, let alone TikTok. Okay, my IG is full of cats. That's all. All right, if you want to contact me, it's my email. As my name there, rahmawatiosman@gmail.com. All right, I put it there in the chat box later. I mean, it's not as easy, as difficult for you to remember actually. Okay, so with that, thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much to our third speaker, Ms. Rahmawati. Okay, so no nagging and teach by example. All right, so to all our 1.8K viewers today, we would like to thank you again for attending today's webinar session. We appreciate your being with us today to spend your time with us on Saturday morning to learn more about teaching literature practices in ESL classroom. On behalf of our group, I would like to apologize for any mishaps throughout this session. you can rewatch this video again on this YouTube platform in the future. We are now sharing the QR codes for the SPL KPM points and also the feedback form for only 30 minutes. So teachers, officers, educators, and viewers, now this is your chance, this is your opportunity to get more SPL KPM points and also to get the e-certificate from the feedback point. So on behalf of our group 3, once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully you can learn a lot on our webinar session today. Till we meet again, thank you and have a nice day. So for your information, we are going to close the link for the SPL KPM point at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.